Welcome everyone to another episode of In Depth with Academia. I'm Richard Price, CEO of academia.edu, and I really love digging into the kind of academic research that, well, challenges what we think we know about, pretty much everything. Today, honestly, this is a doozy. We're taking a close look at a provocative, sweeping, and really fascinating paper titled Dissolution of Calories and Introduction to Modern Nutrition by AustonCherbonneaux. Remember, my job here is to neutrally present the content and ideas of this paper, not to endorse them, but wow, I think there's a lot to chew on, so let's jump in. So, what's the core question Austin is exploring? The author argues, pretty passionately, that the classic calorie model, where we assume our bodies process food energy in the same way a combustion engine burns fuel, is pretty much misguided. According to Austin, this misconception isn't just a little mistake, but a fundamental flaw that has shaped everything from nutrition advice to public health to, honestly, that MyFitnessPal app you might be using. Why is this significant? Well, if the very foundation of how we measure and eat has a big error, then it could totally change how we approach health, weight management, athletic performance, and even how we think about food itself. It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? What if nearly 130 years of dietary guidelines are based on the wrong physics? Kind of wild. Let's get into the main arguments and findings. The author first gives a history lesson. He traces the origins of the calorie to the late 1700s and 1800s, highlighting the work of names like Lavoisier, Rubner, Atwater, and others. Back then, scientists built giant calorimeters, sometimes involving ice spheres and even guinea pigs, kind of hilarious, to measure how much heat food gives off when burned. This burning of food, or combustion, became the metaphor for how we assumed the human body processes energy. The famous 4-9-4 rule, carbs and protein, are 4 kcal per gram, fat is 9, comes straight from these old combustion-based experiments. But, says Austin, if you actually look at modern physics and biochemistry, our bodies don't burn food like logs in a fire. The process is electrochemical, not thermal combustion. He says, again, not my opinion here, that ATP, the molecule that powers muscle action, isn't just produced by burning calories in a combustion-like process. Instead, it's about the motion and arrangement of electrons within molecules and the way cellular machinery uses gradients and chemical reactions. The key players are often acetyl groups, enzymes, mitochondria, cellular respiration processes that never involve literal burning. There's a really interesting sequence where Austin traces the science through names, theories, experiments, sometimes digressing into side comments about the personal quirks of German researchers, and I have to admit those little human tangents are what I love about academic storytelling. Science wasn't always, polished. Sometimes it was messy, passionate, or even fueled by personal diet struggles, like William Banting, who just wanted to lose some weight and started publishing his own observations. Bringing it back to the science for a second, according to the paper, the core energy exchanges inside living things are rooted in the movements of electrons, electrochemical gradients, covalent bonds, and the like. Not in burning or combining oxygen and carbon in the same way as, say, burning coal. The respiration and ATP cycles are about electron transfer, not fire. That means the classic calories in, calories out, CICO model might not capture what's really happening biologically. For listeners wondering, so what does Cherbonneaux suggest instead? The author proposes new models focused on the materials, that is, grams of nutrients actually entering, being used and disposed of by the body. These models, ICU for general use and IACUD for professional, center around tracking what you eat, what your body calls for during activity, and what's actually used or assimilated in the body. The aim is to offer a more precise roadmap for weight management and health than just counting calories. But, and here's the kicker, the paper argues we need to move our language away from thermodynamics and burning toward electrochemical dynamics, focusing on materials, energy transfer, and the real biophysics happening inside of us. I want to pause and be clear. I'm not vouching for these ideas, but I hope you can see why this matters. If these arguments hold up, and that's a big if, it could impact how nutritionists, doctors, athletes, and, well, all of us understand metabolism and weight control. For you, it means the next time you hear burn more calories, you might remember that inside your cells, it's a dance of electrons, not a bonfire. Although, there's something a bit poetic about imagining my mitochondria throwing a tiny rave. so maybe it's not all bad one digression. This for me, not from the paper. Can you imagine what it was like to be the poor guinea pig in the first calorimeter, just sitting in an ice dome while scientists measured your heat output? The history of science is equal parts genius, oddness, and questionable animal welfare. So, as we wrap up, what does this mean for you in short? Question assumptions. Scientific models are always evolving. AustonCherbonneaux's research reminds us that the foundation of our thinking about nutrition, calories, combustion, and all that might not be the absolute truth. It's a step along a winding road of discovery. Thanks for listening to In Depth with Academia. Always remember, academic research is about inviting new insights, not providing ironclad answers. Maybe it's time to rethink what's fueling our lives, both literally and metaphorically. Catch you next time, and go easy on the bonfire imagery when you think about your lunch.